People are actually sounding seriously confused as to why people in the South are being left to die. And that amazes me, you know. Most of you Yankee Northerners are, in fact, Southerners who came here to work in the mills and the factories. And you better fucking realize that. Just because you were raised in Michigan, Ohio, or Pennsylvania doesn't mean you're a Northerner. You know, your traditions and your family mindset is Southern. It is. Northerners are HOA people. They like homeowners organizations, shit like that. That's the mindset of a Northerner. Southerners don't give a shit what you do, as long as you don't tread on them. There's a big difference between a Northerner and a Southerner. There really is. So, what is going on with the South? Let's talk about that. Let's really talk about that. This started long before I was born, long before my parents were born. And it went on with propaganda. Propaganda to demonize Southern people, because it's hard to control people in the mountains. Just look at Afghanistan, right? If you remember, there was a song that Neil Young put out long before I was born called Southern Man, right? Neil Young's a fucking asshole. He helped carry on that propaganda immensely. But the only good thing that came from Neil Young was this.
The king is gone, but he's not forgotten. This is the story of Johnny Rotten.
Rock and roll will never die, but you will.
So, before I was born, movie like Deliverance came along and intentionally taught generations of people that the South was a bunch of butt-fucking, inbred human trash. Intentionally. They had been doing this for years, but that's really when they ramped it up. When they had free reign to just put whatever filthy propaganda they wanted to put out. Completely ignorant suburban morons making fun of what they perceive as ignorant hillbillies, right? Completely ignorant suburban morons. The level of irony doesn't get any higher. You know, I grew up with this disgusting, covert race war propaganda shoved in my face every day. Every day. And now I see it for exactly what it is. You know, after Deliverance, to hit the new generation, movies like Wrong Turn, and they carried on that tradition of the Deliverance theme to imply to stupid, moronic, ignorant people who live on cul-de-sacs that the South is full of inbred hillbillies, right? You know, I was a huge South Park fan over the years, but they really aren't dangerous. They never have been. It's a careful status quo bullshit formula. All along, the same narrative of the South. They do it too. Everybody does it. There's a war on the South, war on the ideas of the South, war on everything to do with the South for years. And then suddenly these pill mills began to come up. They popped up to decimate the areas in the South because the people there, on average, weren't the type of people to use street drugs, but they would use doctor-prescribed drugs, knowing that they were going to eventually yank the pill mills and then leave that vacuum for the heroin dealers to come in, which eventually becomes fentanyl and everything else. This is how you wage a covert war. Then suddenly, shootings began to happen recently. You know, Audrey Hale and that goofy-ass manifesto that was clearly written by a 45 to 50-year-old agent talking about Mustangs and the F word that rhymes with maggot. Like, what LGBTQ person talks like that? They don't. You know, I was literally telling a friend about this war on the South a day before this flooding began. And not only do they despise Southern people because they've never been able to slip in there and fully fit in, they almost have a hatred, like a genetic predisposed hatred for them. For real. You know, I'm still a big Bugs Bunny fan, but Bugs Bunny does this whole dance where he talks to dumb hillbillies and they're basically beating the shit out of each other. He basically starts a war between the two people. And they've been doing this to people for years. So take this as a metaphor. The Pied Piper. And this is what they've been doing to you the whole time. So what's the gain here? You know, many of those properties in the South have been paid off for 100 years or longer. And they've been passed from generation to generation. And they hate that shit. They're not going to let most of these people back onto their land. And like I said, the mountains are hard to control. Hard to control. Go ask some veterans about Afghanistan. See how well that worked out for them. So this covert and propaganda war on the South to demonize them in the first place has been going on for a long fucking time. And I'm guilty of it. When I was a kid, when I was a teenager and I thought I knew what was up, I was dumb enough to argue with people about this. I used to joke about people from the South when I was a stupid, media-washed teenager. And watching this silent war happen over the years has disgusted me to no end, and it has completely changed my mind. So keep doing it, and you're going to turn everybody into what you don't want to happen. And that's the one thing that's crazy about this is, like I know you probably know about this, but there was the helicopter pilot that was saving people, and a chief down there who is clearly, basically the equivalent of an operator put in place, threatened to arrest that guy if he kept saving people because he was in the way of his operation.
He said, if you turn around and go back up the mountain, you're going to be arrested. And he said, I'm letting you know. And at that point, he waved for 2 law enforcement officers to come over and told me that again, if I go back up the mountain, I would be arrested.
Now, you keep doing that because you're going to turn more and more people into what they need to be. You ship the National Guard out of the nation. The National Guard is for the nation, not to leave our soil, not to leave our soil. And you've got them over in the desert somewhere in the Middle East. Interesting. There are videos out there of FEMA helicopters dipping down into civilian-ran rescue operations and washing the entire area with their rotors to fuck everything up because it creates high winds. These people are going overt with everything. There's a scene in Andor, Star Wars, where a character is talking about forcing people's hands, people suffering, and then finding out what they're really all about, the Empire, right? And that's exactly what they're doing right now. Like, people that may have thought, nah, there's nothing going on, are now realizing that, yeah, there's something going on. This war on the South has been going on since long before you and I were born. And now they're just going totally, totally overt with it. And they should be dealt with accordingly. You know what? And to that fire chief that stopped everything, and to everybody who is getting in the way of saving people or recovering bodies, I hope to God that you didn't get the saline solution. I hope to God that you are vaccinated and boosted to the highest level, because you're just a walking time bomb. Make no mistake about it. They want those people, as many as they can, to die and lose their property and just get rid of them. It's a multi-pronged operation. They want as many as they can to die, period. I wouldn't put it past him to send in operators into those areas to finish people off. And they want to make sure that no one's flying a drone and catching their operators heading through the mountains, taking people out, for real. Or drone footage catches somebody alive walking, and then they turn up dead later, in the water. That gets tricky to explain. It starts making them look bad. It starts making people ask questions that need to be asked. I would not put it past them. As crazy as that sounds, they are desperate. It isn't covert anymore. They are in your face, just saying, fuck it. Fuck it and fuck you. That's what they're doing. To everybody. Since 2020, almost exactly 100 years later, you have been in the Bolshevik Revolution 2.0. Period. All you people out there believing that the government is here to help, you people that call CPS on people, you call the man, you call the city on people, you call the cops when anything happens, welfare checks, all your bullshit. They want your guns, because they're convincing you that they're going to take care of you. We're going to take care of you. You know, you don't need weapons. Why do you need to defend yourself? We've got people that'll come do it for you. Look what they've done now. They're not doing shit, dude. They're not doing shit, and people are just dying or rotting. This is what they do. This is what Bolsheviks do. They did it in Russia, and they're doing it here. You better get that through your fucking head. They've been choking you for so long, you don't even realize you're being choked anymore. So to all those Southerners out there and those people who are looking on in disbelief, look around. Look through the past. They have been at war with the South, the people from Virginia, North Carolina, and those places for eons. They hate them. They've wanted them dead for years. Look at the propaganda. Look around. This is not an accident. And lastly, HAARP-like technology is a hell of a weapon. And it's funny that Kennedy thought it was going to be used for good before they went dark about the subject, and what a naive fool he was for that.
We shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control.